If you're over 40, here's a painful truth. Most of the things that drain you today are things you won't spend your whole life chasing. Have you noticed? The older we get, the less excited we feel, yet the more exhausted we become. Not because weaker, but because we're carrying too many things we no longer need. This video is not meant to motivate you. It's not here to teach you how to be more positive. This video is for those who have gone far enough to understand that not every battle is worth winning, not every dream deserves to be chased to the end. We will break down a quote from ancient philosophers, placing them in the real context of people who have lived, lost, failed, and grown tired. And after each group of ideas, I'll give you very concrete exercises, nothing lofty, nothing theoretical, things you can apply immediately in everyday life. If you're looking for calm instead of excitement, clarity instead of motivation, then stay. Because maybe this is a video you're meant to watch slowly, not quickly. Here's a strange paradox that appears after 40. We're busier, yet we get fewer important things done. We say we have no time, yet we waste every day. The problem isn't the clock. It's where you place your attention. After 40, you realize that time was never scarce, attention was. After 40, we finally realize it's not time that's scarce, it's attention. When we're young, we think we lack time because we're not fast enough. As we grow older, we understand we're tired not because we do too much, but because we scatter our mind across too many things that don't matter. You have the same tree house as everyone else. But how many of those hours are consumed by repetitive thoughts, imaginary worries, conversations that go nowhere, tasks that look busy but create no real value? Stoic philosophy doesn't teach time management. It teaches attention protection. Because where attention goes, life is present. Where attention is lost, only existence remains. For 3 consecutive evenings, write down what took up most of my thoughts today. Was it within my control? If I let it go, would the worst really happen? This exercise isn't about productivity. It's about identifying the thief of your life. By 40, loss becomes the teacher no book could replace. By 40, loss becomes the teacher no book can replace. Here are lessons you only understand when you lose someone, or lose an opportunity, or lose the old version of yourself. When we're young, we learn through ambition. After 40, we learn through wounds. Ancient philosophers didn't romanticize pain. They simply told the truth. Loss wakes us up, while success often puts us to sleep. If you've lost a relationship you thought would last forever, a path you believe was destiny, or a belief you once held with certainty, then honestly, you're in a better position to grow, not to suffer. Choose the greatest loss in your life. Write down 3 things. 1. What did it take from me? 2. What did it take me that I couldn't have learned otherwise? D. Without that loss, where would I be weaker today? This isn't about being grateful for pain. It's about not wasting it. After 40, every unnecessary worry feels like a debt you can no longer afford. After 40, every unnecessary worry feels like a debt you no longer have the strength to pay. When we're young, we have extra energy for worrying. As we grow older, every worry comes at a cost, and that cost is peace of mind. Stoic philosophy asks a harsh but fair question: is this worth carrying? Not all worry is bad. But most of our worries don't prevent tragedy, don't lead to action, they only drain our life force. Worries unsolve the future. It steals the present. Whenever you feel anxious, ask, what is this worry asking me to pay with? Sleep, patience, relationships, health. If the price is too high for an uncertain outcome, refuse to pay. Aging teaches this quickly: not everything unfinished was a failure. Age teaches us this quickly: not everything left unfinished is a failure. Some things enter lead to save you, remain unfinished so they don't destroy you, stay incomplete so you can keep living. When we're young, we measure value by results. As we grow older, we measure it by integrity. Ancient philosophy understood this deeply: a good life isn't a perfect life, but a life that doesn't betray itself. Write down 3 things you once considered failures. For each one, answer, if I had continued to the end, what would I have lost? Very often, what you call unfinished is where you chose life over ego. If you realize you don't lack time, only that your attention is placed in the wrong places, if you understand that lost worry and unfinished past are not enemies but sanguine, we'll talk about something even harder, letting go of the illusion of control and learning to live calmly. In a word, tusen to you. Don't leave. Because the next part is where Stoic philosophy speaks directly to humanity's deepest fear. Here's a hard truth we face in midlife. Most of what causes your suffering was never in your hands to begin with. And the most exhausting thing is not failure, but trying to what cannot be controlled. What exhausts is not labor, but attachment to outcomes beyond our control. What drains us isn't work, but attachment to outcomes beyond our control. You can work 12 hours a day and still have energy. But just waiting for a reply that never comes, hoping someone will change, expecting things to go your way can leave you more exhausted than physical labor. Stoic philosophy draws a clear line. Effort is healthy, attachment is toxic. You're allowed to act. You are not allowed to command outcomes. Mental exhaustion always begins with the quiet sentence in your head, it should have been different. Before every important task, say clearly to yourself, this action is within my control. The outcome is not mine to own. After you're done, don't judge yourself by results, judge yourself by this. Did I do my part well? This is how Stoics preserve energy for a lifetime, not just for today. Peace arrives when you accept that control was always an illusion. Peace arrives when you accept that control was always an illusion. We crave control because it creates the illusion of safety. But be honest, you don't control your first thought in the morning. You don't control who stays or leaves your life. You don't control aging, illness, or time. The only thing you control is how you respond. Stoic philosophy doesn't promise an easy life. It promises a mind that isn't dragged around by the world. Write down the issue that stresses you the most. Divide it into 3 circles. 1. What I fully control. 2. What I can partly influence. 3. What I don't control. Spend your energy only on circle 1. Accept circle 3 like the weather. If you argue with the rain because the sky isn't sunny, you'll get wet, not the sky. Wisdom is realizing that most battles you won were never worth fighting. Wisdom is realizing that most of the battles you won in life were never worth fighting. How many times have you won an argument but lost a relationship, proved you were right but lost your peace, defend your ego but hurt yourself? When we're young, we measure strength by victories. As we grow older, we measure it by the battles we avoided. Stoics don't ask, can I win? They ask, what will this victory cost me? This week, intentionally, don't respond immediately. Don't argue when provoked. Don't insist on having the last word. Each time, notes down, what did I preserve? Energy, respect, peace. You'll be surprised to find that sometimes not fighting is the greatest win. When you stop trying to control the world, you begin to master yourself. But then a big question appears. If we don't chase outcomes, don't compete to win, don't control others, what are we living for? In the next group, we'll enter a very sensitive territory: desire, simplicity, and inner freedom, where having less is finally a no. Don't miss it. Because this is where many people begin to feel lighter for the first time in their lives. Here's a deep paradox. We have more than ever, yet feel more lacking than ever. Not because you're not enough, but because desire was never taught how to stop. A simple life feels poor when young, but rich when desire grows quiet. A simple life feels poor when you're young, but becomes rich when desire grows quiet. When we're young, more always means better. More money, more relationships, more experiences. But after a long pursuit, we begin to see an uncomfortable truth. The more we have to hold on to, the less free we become. Stoic philosophy doesn't oppose abundance. It warns against dependence. Because what you can let go of will eventually control you. Choose one area of your life: possessions, schedule, relationships, expectations of yourself. Ask, if I reduce this by 20%, would I lose what truly matters? Freedoms didn't come from adding more, but from removing the right things. By midlife, freedom is no longer doing more but needing less. In midlife, freedom is no longer about doing more but out needing less. When we're young, freedom is having options. As we grow older, freedom is not needing them anymore. Not needing to prove yourself, impress others, run at someone else's pace. Stoic philosophers understood this clearly. The more needs you have, the easier you are to manipulate. The fewer needs you have, the harder you are to shake. Write down 5 things you believe you must have. For each one, ask, if I like this for 6 months, would I still be okay? Many needs are just habits in disguise. Life grows lighter the moment you stop trying to be remembered. Life becomes lighter the moment you stop trying to be remembered. How many decisions in your life were driven by a quiet fear? If I don't do this, what will people think? Ancient philosophies don't advise living anonymously. It advises living honestly. Because the desire to be remembered often makes us live by others' expectations, not by our own values. Reputation doesn't lighten your life. It only makes the ego heavier. For one say, do at least one thing: don't post it, don't tell anyone, don't let it be known. And notice, do I still want to do it when there's no audience? If the answer is yes, you've touched inner freedom. When desire quiets down, life speaks more softly yet more clearly. But another question arises: if we don't chase many things, don't need much, don't live to be remembered, what keeps us standing each day? In the next group, we'll talk about a crucial pillar: discipline, character, and real maturity. And perhaps you'll realize this: motivation isn't what you lack, you're simply in need of something more enduring. There is a very specific moment in life when you no longer need us to believe in you, but you do need yourself not to betray yourself. That's when discipline replaces motivation and character begins to speak. Youth spends life chasing approval. Wisdom learns peace comes from self-rule. Youth spends an entire life seeking approval. Wisdom learns that peace comes from self-mastery. When we're young, we're extremely sensitive to other people's eyes. A compliment can lift us up. A criticism can break us down. But living for approval means living with the reins in someone else's hands. Stoic philosophy is stoic emotional numbness. It teaches independence of value. Because if your peace depends on others, you will never truly be at peace. Write down, what makes me feel good about myself? Does it come from within or from outside? This week, do at least one thing that aligns with your values even if no one acknowledges it. This is the first step toward inner freedom. After 40, character speaks louder than potential ever did. After 40, character speaks louder than any promise of potential. When we're young, we're far driven because we still have potential. As we grow older, people look at simple things. Do you keep your word? Are you consistent? Can you be trusted? Ancient philosophy is very practical. Talent impresses, character builds trust, and trust is what makes people stay. Choose one small promise you make to yourself every day. Keep it for 3 days. No showing off. No telling anyone. Character is built through commitments with no audience. After 40, discipline feels kinder than motivation ever was. After 40, discipline turns out to be kinder than motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline stays. Motivation says, push harder. Discipline says, just do the small part today. Stoic philosophy believes in steady rhythm, not emotional peaks. Because life is long, and only what is sustainable reaches the end. Identify the minimum action you will still take even when you don't feel like it. Keep that rhythm. Discipline doesn't force you to be extraordinary, it keeps you from falling apart. You mature when praise no longer feeds you and blame no longer stars you. You mature when praise no longer feeds you and criticism no longer starves you. This is the sign of real maturity. When you don't get overly excited by praise, don't collapse under criticism, and maintain your inner rhythm, you are no longer living on broad emotions. Stoic philosophy calls this emotional self-rule not by suppression, but by refusing to hand over control. For 1 week, when praised, acknowledge it, don't cling to it. When criticized, examine it, don't self-destruct. Ask one question only: does this help me live closer to my values? If not, let it pass. When you stop living for approval, when discipline replaces inspiration, when character becomes your compass, something interesting happens. Silence begins to matter. In the next group, we enter the deepest part of the journey, meaning, philosophy, and inner life. And maybe you'll realize this: life hasn't lost its meaning, we've just been listening to it too loudly. Here is a very quiet moment in life when ambition is no longer strong enough to pull you out of bed each morning. And at that point, if you don't have meaning, you will feel empty even if everything seems fine. Philosophy matters when ambition fades and meaning must stand on its own. Philosophy only truly matters when ambition fades and meaning must stand on its own. When we're young, we don't need philosophy. Ambition alone is enough to drive us forward. But one day, you gain a few things, you lose a few things, and you realize moving forward without knowing why is more exhausting than standing still. Stoic philosophy then gives you new goals. It returns you to an old question: how do I live without despising myself? Meanings then come from being above us. It comes from being aligned with yourself. For 7 mornings, ask one question only today: how can I live in a way I won't regret? No grand action needed. Just one value-aligned behavior. Meaning is built from small choice repeated daily. The mind matures when it stops asking, what do I gain? And asks, what do I need? The mind matures when it stops asking, what do I gain? And starts asking, what do I truly need? What do I gain? Creates competition. What do I need? Creates clarity. Many people over 40 are still exhausted not because they lack something, but because they want the wrong things. Stoic philosophy calls this confusing necessity. If you live long enough, you'll see you need less than you think, but you need it more precisely. Write down 10 things you're currently pursuing. Divide them into 3 groups. Truly necessary for a good life, 2. Nice to have, but not essential, 3. Mainly to satisfy the ego. The greatest courage isn't chasing more, it's letting go of confusion. Midlife reveals a hard truth: comfort can be as dangerous as pain. Midlife reveals a hard truth: comfort can be just as dangerous as pain. Pain forces change. Comfort creates stagnation. Many people are not suffering, but they're not truly living either. They stay in jobs they don't hate, relationships that aren't bad, lives without disaster, yet day after day passes without real persons. Stoic philosophy doesn't glorify suffering. It warns against mental numbness. Choose one comfortable but unconscious habit: endless scrolling, avoiding necessary conversations, postponing what matters. For 7 days, intentionally do it a little differently. Not to suffer more, but to wake up. When ambition quiets, when what do I gain is no longer enough, when comfort stops reassuring you, every quiet space opens up. Silence. Death. Alignment with yourself. In the final group, we go to the deepest place where philosophy is no longer for thinking but for learning how to live and how to live calmly. Don't go. Because this is the part everyone will need sooner or later. Here are truths in life you can only hear when everything becomes quiet. Not in success. Not in crisis. But when you finally stop running. After 40, silence becomes a refuge rather than emptiness. After 40, silence becomes a refuge, not a void. When we're young, silence makes us uncomfortable. It forces us to face ourselves. We turn on music. We talk more. We fill time. But after no collisions, losses, and exhaustion, we begin to understand Silience take ending away, it only removes unnecessary noise. Stoic philosophy sees Silience as a form of discipline. Not to escape life, but to avoid being dragged by it. Every day, spend 1 minutes, no phone, no music, no purpose. Just sit and observe, thoughts arriving and leaving, emotions rising and settling. You don't need to fix anything. Just be there. Calm begins here. You stop fearing death when you finally learn how to live. You stop fearing death when you finally learn how to live. People don't fear death itself. They fear living wrongly, living halfway, living without truly living. Fear of death is often compressed regret. Stoic philosophers didn't obsess over death. They used it as a guiding question. If today were my last day, would I be ashamed of how I lived? Not to panic, but to live more clearly. Every evening ask yourself, did I live today according to what I believe is right? Did I say or do anything out of fear rather than values? Thinking about death isn't to make you sad, it's to keep you from wasting tomorrow. In later years, the greatest wealth is not achievement, but alignment. In the later years of life, the greatest wealth is not achievement, but alignment. Alignment means your actions don't betray your values, your words don't betray the person you want to become, your outer life doesn't suffocate your inner life. You may not be rich, not prominent, not remembered for long. But if you sleep peacefully, don't perform, don't need to apologize to yourself, you are wealthier than many successful people. Stoic philosophy doesn't promise glory. It promises ending without shame. Write down 3 core values you hold, 3 things you use most often. Ask honestly, do they move in the same direction? If not, what needs changing isn't you, but the rhythm of life you're following. If you've made it this far, you may have realized something. Stoic philosophy doesn't make life easier. It makes life lighter. Not by having more, but by letting go at the right places. Not by winning more, but by refusing to fight unwinnable battles. If this video made you pause for a moment, think a little slower, and treat yourself a little more kindly than it has done its job. Remember, living well is not about being remembered, it's about not having to hide from yourself in solace. If you want, stay with this channel. We're not trying to live above us. We're simply learning how not to lie beneath ourselves.